Well, what we've decided is that we've got a way forward for this country and for the EU. Now, we've got a great deal on Brexit. As you know, for the first time in 3.5 years, Parliament voted to endorse a way out of the EU, the deal I was able to do with our friends and partners. But unfortunately, they also voted to delay the final approval of that deal that they've endorsed. And what that means, I'm afraid, is if this Parliament is anything to go by, that delay could go on for a very long time. Because I'm afraid it looks as though our EU friends are going to respond to Parliament's request by having an extension, which I really don't want at all. So the way to get this done, the way to get Brexit done, is, I think, to be reasonable with Parliament and say, if they genuinely want more time to study this excellent deal, they can have it, but they have to agree to a general election on December the 12th. And that's the way forward, because this Parliament's been going on for a long time without a majority. It's refusing to deliver Brexit. It's impossible to deliver legislation. It's time, frankly, that the opposition summoned up the nerve to submit themselves to the judgment of our collective boss, which is the people of the UK.
But if your deal is so great as you claim, and if Parliament, you believe, has endorsed it, which they haven't, they've just agreed to go ahead and have scrutiny, why then try to ram this through with the threat of election? You could go on a more conventional timetable, give Parliament time to do standard lengths of scrutiny and get on with it that way.
Well, no, we're going to give them, that's a very good point. We're going to give them all the time they want between now and the dissolution of Parliament to do that scrutiny. And that's much more than I think that some of them have been asking for. I mean, that's more, I think, than Philip Hammond was asking. This is a big chunk of time. And it was interesting, actually, in the debate on Tuesday about Brexit. Everybody said we need more time to study this deal. Actually, the Labour Party couldn't even find enough speakers. They ran out of speakers, let alone new ideas to bring to the table. We've had 3.5 years to discuss this. We're being very, very reasonable. We're saying, if you genuinely want more time, you can have it. Here it is. But the condition for that is that we all agree to go for a general election on December the 12th. And the reason for having that deadline is because otherwise, I don't think the people of this country are going to believe that Parliament is really going to do it by that deadline. Because they spent 3.5 years failing to do it. So let's get it done and let's come out of the EU.
But Prime Minister, it's not standard behaviour. You're essentially trying to blackmail Parliament with the threat of an election in order to ram through your bill. Now, this is the biggest thing, I'm sure you would say this, that this country has done for decades and decades and decades. You could just say, fine, let's have as long as it takes to get through this line by line in Parliament. Would that not be the responsible thing to do?
Come on, we've had 3.5 years.
Not looking at this bill.
Well, most of this bill is, of course, very familiar to parliamentarians. And as I say, when they had the opportunity to debate the actual deal the other day, they couldn't find enough speakers to fill the debate. This is something that's been super masticated in our democracy. They've been over it a long time.
There are big changes compared to your deal and the previous deal.
And so what we're saying, Laura, is that there's going to be more time now allocated for all MPs to come together and look at it. And starting from now, starting from tonight if necessary, right the way through to when Parliament would rise on November the 6th, there is a long period to debate, discuss the provisions in this withdrawal agreement. But I think what people will want to know is that if there is that extra time, then this time Parliament really means it and really will get behind the deal and really will put it through. And in order to create a deadline that is credible in everybody's minds, then there must be that hard stop of a general election.
Just finally, you've tried to get an election before and failed. What makes you think that the opposition will give you your way this time? I mean, they could just keep you hostage.
They could, but I think it would be absolutely morally incredible if they were to do so. After all, this is a party that is the Labour Party, generally called the Labour Party, called repeatedly, endlessly for a general election. They've called for an election to be delayed until there's a deal on Brexit, until there's an extension on Brexit. Well, they've got their heart's desire. Now is the time to be reasonable, to agree that with the extra time that would be available, a considerable chunk of time, for Parliament to get together, MPs across the House to come together, look at this bill properly, get it done, but agree also that we can then go to a general election. And I'd be very happy to campaign on this deal. I think it's a great deal for the country. It takes our country forward. I'd be very happy to campaign on all the things that we're doing as a one-nation Conservative government to build a great future for the whole of the UK.
But just lastly, if MPs do not agree to your demand for an election, what will you do?
Well, that's a very good point, and I'm afraid it will be clear that if Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party refuse to go along with this deal and do not accept either that Brexit can be done, refuse to accept that there should be more time to deliberate Brexit, that's what they'd be saying, or that there can be a general election, then you have to ask, what is the purpose that they think they are serving in Parliament? What we would do, to be absolutely clear with you, is we would campaign day after day after day for the people of this country to be released from subjection to a Parliament that has outlived its usefulness, that has fulfilled its function, that is refusing to get Brexit done, that is refusing to advance any of the fantastic one-nation agenda that we set out in the Queen's speech. And it is time, frankly, for this Parliament to make way for a new, fresh Parliament that can deliver on the priorities of the British people.
Some of your cabinet would like to have more time with the bill. Some of them don't want an election.
But we are giving more time for the bill, and that is the beauty of what we're proposing. But the only way, credibly, to offer more time is for the people of this country and for Parliament to understand that this time there really is a deadline.